Good evening, Young Kings. Time for your more motivation. Continuing on this journey. Trying to be as open as possible, as transparent as possible, so we negotiate through this, navigate through this, hopefully as efficient as possible. Had a great day today. Had a day off work. Went and did some shopping, secondhand stores, and actually bought an item that I found online. Um, Very few things do I have in my house that are brand new. Um, it's kind of a tribute to my mom. She was a very thrifty lady. Had an eye for good things that other people no longer wanted. And you come in our house and people give compliments. Oh, that's nice. That must have been expensive. And she really took pride in decorating our house and making sure that we had some nice things in there. So my house here is going to be a tribute. I have a beautiful home. It's over 4,000 square feet. So, first of all, I'm not going to be able to afford to put all new stuff in there. But second of all, I think it's a wonderful tribute to my mom and what she has taught me to be thrifty and being a good steward. So I'll continue to do that. But as I was going to pick up this piece, it's another bar with lights in there and everything, so I can set some things on. But I was going to pick it up. This is a beautiful piece. One day I'll do a video and I can show you the different items that I've bought used. There are a few things I don't get used, obviously mattresses and electronics, some electronics, but my TVs and my mattresses are one of the things that I won't apply that principle being thrifty on. I'll go out and make sure I have something nice in those regards. But the rest of it, um, is really I'll do a tour one day and I'll point out the different things that I got and how much I paid for it at various different places. So the one today I had to drive about an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes to pick it up. So it took me a while to get there, but it was well worth it because the same piece would have cost probably 4 or 5 times the amount that I paid for it in there. But as I was driving back, I was like, that's kind of like what I'm going through now. I'm being put out to the side as though I'm no longer useful in this marriage, but at the same time, there's still value. So I'll get picked up, on the black market. Not even that. Like the reality of it is like um, one person trash is another person's treasure. So there's benefits in that on there. Let's go and get started. I'm rambling on. I'm gonna turn this light on. Doing my attorney, getting in this office. Um, Speaking of my mom, um, I know if you've been watching these videos by now, you're probably wondering like, wow, um, you've been through a lot in this marriage, and I'm not a victim by any stretch of the means, and that's not the objective behind this. And it'll come out probably in one of these videos. You'll see my objective is not to show how much I've been a victim. I mean, I really truly love my family and wanted things to work out. It's just like our chemistry and our ability to work things out have deteriorated. Um, but when my mom was on her deathbed, um, I was in Africa, and I got a Red Cross message to come home that my mom was gravely ill. And I told the doctor on the phone, he said, "Hey, we don't want you to come back too early because we're uncertain. We know she's not going to recover, but we just don't know how long it's going to be." And I remember on that Red Cross message, I told the doctor, I say, I'd rather get there early and get to spend some time with my mom than to get there after and she's already passed away. So I set up the Red Cross so I can come home immediately, regardless of when the time was. And so that's what I did. I came home and I spent some valuable time with my mom by her bedside and conversations that will stay with me until I'm in that same position and it's time for me to cross over from this life. But she told me, she's like, Andrew, I'm so proud of you. You're a good man. You're a good father. You're a good husband. Um, I couldn't have asked for a better son. You have done everything. You travel. You take care of your family. You bring stuff together. And it's not saying I was better than my brothers, but that was my moment with her. And she was just giving me these compliments. And I remember telling my mom, I said, Mom, you know, I'm struggling in my marriage. Like she said, I know. He said, I'm not blind. Um, I know what's going on, but don't let that discourage you from knowing that you are a good man. And with that being said, I remember sitting at my mom's bedside, and I would take a little Bluetooth speaker up there and listen to music, the Commodores, and she used to love some Lionel Richie and Luther Vandross and Freddie Jackson. So we'd sit there just vibe out, and I'll be up there all day. I mean, I wouldn't leave the side other than to go get some food, maybe to shower, and then I was kind of right back up there, sitting by her bedside. And remember, I've been in Africa about 4 or 5 months when this had transpired. So I flew back, changed up, and went and sat with her in hospice for quite a bit of time. And I remember getting a text from my wife telling me I was selfish um, for sitting up there so long. I mean, really, the reason I'm back there is to attend my mom's last moment and potentially her funeral. And I get a text telling me that I'm selfish. And it's not like I was out partying. It's not like I was out, doing, lawlessness or out with other women. I'm sitting at my mom's bedside, and she tells me I'm selfish, that I shouldn't just be sitting up there all day. Um, I should come home and visit and be with the kids. And from one perspective, you may say, well, she just wants you to be with the kids, but not understanding the gravity of the situation and the inability to do that was one of those things. So if you're watching these videos by now, you probably wonder, like, man, why did you stay so long? My whole ideal of success was having a family and being able to provide. I seen my mom struggle trying to raise kids and provide a better life for us. And I said, you know, I didn't want my women to struggle. Um, we mentioned that my father wasn't there, and I never wanted to not be there for my kids. And I used to tell my friends, I said, it sounds different. It's like my job took me across the world, many different places. So there were periods of time that I'll be gone. And it's different if I'm still with the mom. If I'm still with the mom, then his dad's at work. But if we're not together, then it was like I haven't seen my dad in months or a year. And even though I'm in the same place, whether we were together or not, the narrative it read different if we were together. And then the other thing was that there were a lot of threats that was lodged at me. And you got to realize I'm young too, and I'm not understanding the court system. I didn't have my lawyer that I have now. I wish I had my lawyer now that I had back then. But the wife would tell me, "Hey, you in the military? I'm going to take the kids and I'm going to go to Kentucky. You'll never see them." And I'm like, wow, just playing the kids against me. Like, hey, if you leave, you're never going to see your kids. And it wasn't that you're never going to see your kids because you're a bad husband or a bad father. It was just more like you're never going to see your kids if we are a package deal. And I know a lot of people probably go through that exact same thing. It's not that they don't love the kids. It's just their mom stops loving the man that they had kids with, and makes it hard for the man to see the kids. And I never wanted to go through that. So here we are, our kids are grown, and it's only fitting that she would leave at this point because, hey, there's no more kids. But anyways, let me, long intro, and Cam, I understand, my friend Cam said, hey, your intros are getting long, man. I'm here to get to the video, get to the substance of it. And the thing about it, there's substance in the intro. You just got to beware of the substance. But anyways, he said I'm going to lose a subscriber, but he'll stick around. He's good and faithful. But stay tuned. We'll get into this. I won't do a recap because I just gave you a long intro, but let's get into the case where I picked up. I kind of got to highlight it out here. So let me turn this over. All right. The defendant consistently maintains the marriage can be salvaged. Hold up, right there. The defendant, remember that the defendant here is the wife. Really, in this case, the husband is divorcing the wife. So the husband is the plaintiff and the wife is the defendant. So when it says the defendant consistently maintains the marriage can be salvaged, that's not true. There's been tons of reconciliation efforts that I went forth on deaf ears, attempts to reconcile, and she told me she don't want to be with me, and that's okay. That's her right to do that. But so that's another discrepancy right off the beginning of getting in this course of of this case, meaning that there's so many discrepancies. I think you all should start from scratch and just come up with a different case. Like, and I think that's a good point here. Like, I didn't just go pick up this case to find something to pick apart. I mean, this case here was in the document for divorce, meaning like I'm not smart enough to just go out and research the millions of cases of divorces that didn't took place. I just decided to read the one they chose to base their divorce off of. They meaning um, the plaintiff and her legal team decided to use this case against myself and my client. So I didn't just pull this out the blue and say, let me study this case and study law. And let me give you a background on my law experience. All right, we're done. Did you get that? And it's nothing. Well, let me rephrase that. I did take the LSAT. Like I was originally supposed to go to law school. I think it was about 15 years ago. Um, I came back when I was coming back from Afghanistan. I took the LSAT, and I passed, and I got accepted into law school. And then I started calculating the cost it would take to do this, and I was calculating like, man, do I have what it takes to become a lawyer? And I tell you what, that's one of the decisions I made that I wish I wouldn't have made at the time. I made a decision out of fear not to go ahead with law school. I decided to go. I said, well, I'll just go do a master's. It's going to be a third of the cost, and it's going to be a third of the effort because I was already working full time and had a lot on the plate. I had kids. I said it would be selfish of me to embark upon that endeavor to go to law school. So I made that decision out of fear not to go. And here it is 15 years later. I wish I would have stuck with it. I did go through and get my master's, so it's not like I didn't follow through what I was my plan B. But I had the ability to do plan A, and I neglected to follow through. So that's a tip to you, young kings. Don't make decisions off of fear. Don't try to take the easy route. And my master's wasn't an easy thing, but at the same time, um, I believe I should have went through with that. And obviously, I can't go back and change that. But that's the depth of my law experience is taking the LSAT and being accepted to law school. But I've never attended one of the classes. So let's get back into this. The defendant consistently maintains the marriage can be salvaged. We just went through that. She still has love for her husband. Man. Like, man. And I know I was wrong for reading the diary, but she wrote in 1995 that she hated me and wished that I fell. And we just went through chronologically on a lot of things that has transpired throughout this marriage. And I can say, like, those thoughts were real. Like, there's evidence that is still the case. Like, there's no change that would give me an indication like, hey, maybe she really didn't mean that. But no. So she still has love for her husband, and she believes reconciliation is possible. Like, I don't know if this was just a copy and paste on behalf, and this is not been meant to be insult against their legal team, but if they just got a template, they just throw it up there and say, hey, we're going to shoot this through the court and, kind of dab up and just kind of let it go. Or if there was a thoughtful analysis of this case, kind of like what my lawyer is doing, or because these are not in line with what's going on here in the case, because she doesn't think reconciliation is possible. But again, if she goes back into that Valentine's thing, if reconciliation is we're getting back together and you on girls trips and your phone going off at 2:30 in the morning, all hours of the night, you're on your phone, you say you're playing Candy Crush, but whatever, like, if that's a reconciliation effort, then man, I don't know. But she says she still has love for her husband, and she believes that reconciliation is possible if he would approach the marriage in a proper light with due consideration for a period of time they have been married, and that there are problems. Let me go through that again. If he would approach the marriage in a proper light, and with due consideration for the period of time that they have been married and their problems. So he's saying, hey, look, she'll be willing to work it out if I would approach in a different light. Like, when I went over, and I keep going over this thing about me going to jail because it was false allegations that landed me there. Um, but she says that that's the reason she doesn't want to be with me, is because of what happened and that my temper. And on the outside, you can go be emotional, you can show tears to friends and all that, and it may sound good. And truly, if that was my condition of what I behaved without the marriage, but that was the exception, that wasn't a norm. But even in that, that's not making an excuse for that by any stretch of the means. And I'm gonna take a pause here. Young kings, you can't control what happens to you. You can only control your response. Your response is the most valuable thing that you have. That's the most valuable thing you have. Is your response to things. So you got to have a response management that you can be calm at all times, never losing your temper, never get too high, never get too low. That was kind of the end of that video. But let me get back. So she says that's why she doesn't want to be with me, right? And to the untrained ear, that sounds like, wow, yeah, I wouldn't want to be with nobody like that either. But what is neglected is, where did that come from? Like, and I'm not making an excuse. I want you to really use your eyes and ears of discernment. So my response was out of control and it was inappropriate. But with that, all be that, what am I responding to? I'm responding, to, she said she didn't want to be with me, but before it happened, she was down with the dude in Detroit. So obviously you had made that decision, you want to be with me before then. So that wasn't, that wasn't a cause and effect. Like, all right, I came and tore up the house, so then the next weekend you went down in Detroit. No, it was reverse. You went down there after I had just mowed the grass. Matter of fact, you was asking me when I was coming over to mow the grass. And so I was over that day you left to mow the grass and rake, because you said, hey, you said you was going to do it. And I said, well, yeah, I got tied up at work and I went over to mow. So you asking me to mow the grass knowing that you were going to go on a date. So all that contributed to that, and that's not making any excuse. So that is a false assertion that she believes reconciliation is possible, because that has never been the case. I've tried to do counseling. Had a pastor over and I asked you to go to professional counseling. So this is not in line with that. So let's continue on. Now, everything has fallen apart, apparently because of two things. And I think that they are the money. Let me rephrase that. Because of two things. And I think they are the money that is involved here and the other party involved. So, yeah, that's not applicable. Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say, like, I've been good. I have had affairs. I have cheated and then I don't even want to say like out of emptiness, but out of brokenness, I would tell you that. Like, out of pleading and begging my wife, out of trying to perform to a position where I was accepted by her. So in her eyes, in this case, like, I don't know if you've been following this along the way, but I was supposed to just sit there and take this all the time, this abuse. Like, I wasn't supposed to have outlets, and really I wasn't supposed to have them. But imagine, like, these things I'm talking about are not things that I'm just making up. These are actually things that are happening, and I'm supposed to be this happy-go-lucky, just say, hey, give me a little more of that, a little more of that disrespect, a little more of that ignoring me and stonewalling me, a little more of that lack of intimacy. There's times that we'd just be in the store, and I go to, because I like intimacy. I mean, I'm a Taurus, so I'm an affectionate person by nature. So there'll be times like I just want to hold her hand and walk, and we'll be holding it for 2 steps, and then she'll pull her hand away and act like she's going to get something in her purse, and then next thing you know, she got her hand back down, but we're not holding hands. And every time it was like magic. I used to try to do it just to see how many steps I can get with her hand before she pulls away. Like, really, I used to go give her a kiss, and she's like, well, I just kissed you yesterday. You already had a kiss. Why do you need another one? It's like, man, like, I didn't know they were supposed to be rationed out. And I told you she was a stay-at-home mom. Um, and there's times like when she went back to work, that money didn't come to the household. That money went to her. But one of the things with going back to work is like her money went to her wardrobe. Her wardrobe was on fleet, and that's what it is now. She stayed fly. And the thing about it, I was like, man, she dressing up going to work. Skirts are getting shorter and stuff like that. And then she come home, she throwing sweats in the bonnet and all that stuff. But I used to watch her getting ready for work. I mean, that was like exciting to me. And she was like, you just like those perverts at work trying to look up my skirt. I'm looking like, what? I'm your husband. And you're going to tell me like I'm just like the perverts at work, but your skirt is getting shorter, and you sure ain't trying to prevent them from doing and saying nothing. But I'm your husband who's supposed to be uh, eating and drinking from the vessel that's provided for him, and I'm just like them. I'm not supposed to look at you. And then so she'd get home from work and she'll immediately change. But when it was work, she was fly. And just stuff like that. So it's just a complete lack of intimacy in this marriage the whole time. But she'll come back and she'll be bragging about her boss, some white dudes. Oh, he just got a brand new Jag. He's nice, and this and that. I'm like, man, this dude got more compliments, and you calling him a pervert, and he ain't, you ain't married to him, but your skirts are getting shorter up in there. But then your husband, who's over here trying to maintain a household with you, he's the pervert, and he don't get to see that stuff. So that is completely offline. So there's other people involved, and we both have had that. Let's go on. Now, in my own disposition of this case is to deny relief, and I am mindful of the no-fault claim and so on. So Michigan is a no-fault state. I just wanted you to be mindful of that. Michigan is a no-fault state. So I want to read this of what it means by no-fault, because what's critical here, like I said, I didn't just pick up this case to just throw mud out there, but there's been an attempted assassination on who I am as a person in light of this case, meaning like the hardest place to be in this world is to navigate, is to be a black man. That's the hardest job ever in this world, because you got to get everything right. And I'm not, there's no discredit to the black woman, but the black man has one shot to get things right through his work ethic, through his intelligence, through his drive, through his ambition. He has to go get it. And the reason I said the black woman is probably right second behind that is because if the black woman don't get it, then she just got to go marry somebody who do got it. So she got a second chance for recovery. But with that being said, it's like Michigan is a no-fault state. She could have went down to her lawyer and said, hey, we got irreconcilable differences, no fault, I just want a divorce. And Michigan would have granted a divorce. However, let me read this to you what no fault means in the state of Michigan. I'm glad I got a lawyer like this, because he be keeping me up on game. All right, let's go get at this. All right. What are Michigan divorce laws? To get a divorce in the state of Michigan, either you or your spouse must have lived in Michigan for at least 6 months prior to filing. We met that. We lived in Michigan for more than 6 months. All right. You also must have lived in a county where you or your spouse have filed for at least 10 days prior to filing. So we lived in Michigan, and we lived specifically in that county that she's filed for greater than 10 days. You do not have to legally separate or live separately from your partner in order to file for a divorce. We are separated, so we do not live together. All right, so this is the part that I want you to pay attention, because this is some clues in here. Watch this. All right. Michigan is a no-fault divorce state. In order to file for divorce, a party only needs to allege that there has been a breakdown in the marriage relationship to the extent that the bond of matrimony cannot be preserved. In the case, you can say, hey, we got personality differences, we just don't want to be together, or I just don't want to be with him. And once one party says that, then, no fault. You don't have to put blame on anyone. So you can just go say, let me read that again. Michigan is a no-fault state. In order to file for a divorce, a party only needs to allege, not prove, just allege, that there has been a breakdown of the marriage relationship to the extent of matrimony cannot be preserved. Now, this is key. This is going to tell you why the slander came in on this case. This next statement is why slander was brought into this. Although, this is when they say although, that means like we know we told you it's a no fault state, but there's a clause in there. So this is that although. Although Michigan is a no fault divorce state, a judge can evaluate fault and a spouse behaviors during the marriage for alimony and property division proceedings. So, if you come and you get these allegations, like in this case with Kretzschmar versus Kretzschmar, what they're trying to say, and that I'm a drug addict, I'm lazy, that I'm physically abusive, that I've incompetent, that I'm insolent, that I'm a Sharpie, and you go through all these things, then they can try to get you a little more bread on the end. So this is not about her not wanting me, which is the case. She doesn't want me. But it's more about her still wanting me to provide for her in the absence. And I remember when we were going through this divorce, and she was like telling me, she's like, you lied. You told my dad you will always take care of me. Her dad had passed away. And, you will always be there for me. And now all of a sudden, this is when we're going through the divorce the first time. Now you're going to try to reduce to only what the courts tell you need to do. So even in her thing with divorce, she wants me to take care of her, even though she doesn't want to be with me. Like, if you truly are moved on, then that's that man's responsibility. That's that man's responsibility. I mean, our kids are grown, I'm not obligated to take care of somebody else's significant other. So this slander is introduced just for the sake of trying to get more alimony or the division of property. So we're going to have to go through, we're going to have to figure this out, because this slander that you've done in this case, like, I wouldn't even have to hire my attorney if you didn't come in with this case. He wouldn't have known where to go. He ain't that smart. But let's continue on. My own disposition of this case is to deny relief. And I am mindful that no fault claim and so on. But I also think they have an obligation to look at things realistically after hearing the parties and having testify as to what can be done and what should be done under the circumstances. I do not think the parties should just let it drop. I think they should give it another try. See, that's not your claim. And right now, that's not my claim. I recognize, and I've been studying healthy relationships. And when I go in and look at healthy relationships and what's been involved in ours, I realize, like, we don't have a healthy relationship. And there's not a desire to have that. It's always been just one-sided. So we'll continue on. Now, this is my version of the case, and as stated in related, I will leave things right there. And then it said, at least relief is denied. I think in view of the fact, Ms. Kretzschmar has indicated a disposition to, on her part, want to reconcile and has made efforts to do so. So this is saying, like, hey, she wants her husband, and she's making efforts to try to get back with him. And that's not our case. That's not our story. That's not what's going on here. So that's only, I mean, there's so many discrepancies that, like I says, y'all really need to look at this. So let me go back and read that. I think in view of the fact that Ms. Kretzschmar has indicated a disposition on her part. So on her part. But remember, she denies no wrongdoing at the beginning. But she's saying on her part, she wants to reconcile and made efforts to do so. I'll be interested to see what is your supporting data behind that, making efforts to do so. Maybe it is the girls trip. I don't know. I think we should also deny the separation maintenance and let the parties work out their solutions to this matter. Okay, I'm liking that. I'm liking that. Deny separation maintenance. Okay, make sure my lawyer. Okay, noted. Continuing on. Oh, we're about 30 minutes. I'm gonna just read. I'm gonna get to this page because man, I don't know how many parts, but man, this is about a few more pages. Let me just get to the end of this page. Um, the court denied relief to either party, directed the entry of a judgment of dismissal, and denied the plaintiff's motion to reconsider and amend findings to his motions for trial. The plaintiff appealed for a dismissal of his complaint. So obviously, the plaintiff is the husband. He was denied his ability to go through and say, "Hey, I don't want to do any alimony or support." So they denied that. So I guess that's where this is made for. The court denied the relief of either party and directed entry of a judgment of dismissal and denies the plaintiff's motion to reconsider the amends finding and the motion for a new trial. The plaintiff appealed for the dismissal in his complaint. And then, and I'll wrap it up on this. On January 4th, 1973, the court entered an order requiring the plaintiff to pay all arranged existing orders under ex parte order regarding the custody, support, and other relief which the lower court had issued on June 30th, 1971. The plaintiff thereupon filed with the court an emergency application for leave of appeal from the court January 4th order to move immediate consideration thereof. The court on February 3rd, 1973 denied the emergency application for a leave to appeal. Let me finish this paragraph out and we start. All right. And granted the motion for immediate consideration. Ordered that let me see. So they granted the appeal and ordered that the order of the trial court date dated for 30 June 1971 should not be enforced. So his appeal worked and it was not enforced, except as to custody pending final appeal of the main case. So they appealed it except for the custody. And this is key. And reduced the plaintiff's payment from $200 to $100 per week for child support and from $200 to $100 per week for alimony under the final disposition appeal of the case. He got it cut in half. I think I'm going to go get that. So the goal here is to get this alimony cut in half. Leave your man the room to shine, or whoever you're going to be with. But regardless, he was able to get it reduced from 200. I mean, he's a doctor. I guess back then that was big money, but they cut it down in 50%. So, with that being stated, I'm not sure how many more of these are going to go on. I got about 2 or 3 more pages, and there's some other cases referenced in there. There are some things that I want to get to in there that outside of this case that is also alleged, and it comes to the property division and alimony and that. So we'll navigate through this together. It's not my intent to slander anyone. The things that I'm revealing to you and being vulnerable with are actually things that I lived through and actually things that I experienced firsthand. So I'm not trying to exaggerate things. I'm just shedding light on it. And I realize in the things when people throw out like toxic and stuff of that nature, when you're a black man, you expected just to take it. Like, had I done all those things that's alleged in these cases, and she came out and she brought light to it, people say, "Hey, you're so brave for speaking out about this. You know, you it takes a strong woman to do that, and you know you're going to be better knowing that you have got that out." Like, if those things were true, and she was the one saying that about me, and these things were, but when you're a black man and you experience those same things, they want you to be quiet and just take it. You know, they want to change your name to Toby. They want to beat it out of you, and then you're just supposed to just accept your new name and everything. Young Kings, And I'll close on this. I know we had 35 minutes, but I want y'all to learn from this. Meaning, like, don't just tolerate this. You know, deposit and withdrawals. Like, if you're in a relationship, you ought to have a 1 to 3 or 1 to 5 ratio. And I'm saying this 1 to 3, and I'm shooting for 1 to 5. Like, for every time there's a complaint or something about you, there should have been at least 5 compliments, or 5 good things said about you. You can't have a balanced relationship where people are tearing you down all the time. Like, you need a cheerleader. You need somebody in your corner that's going to be picking you up, because everybody outside that house is going to be tearing you down. And if the inside of your house is tearing you down too, man, it's going to be hard, extremely hard to overcome that. So choose wisely. Don't just choose beauty. Don't just choose booty. You got to choose character and brains. And you got to choose all that. So choose wisely, young kings. Make it a great evening.